written in the Torah itself. And therefore you're allowed to cook the chocolate. So back to our couple here. And the wife says, my husband cooked meat with milk. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. What did he do? He thought it's not kosher, so he wanted to prevent you from eating. According to this, and again, this is called acrobatics in halacha. We're stretched, we're doing flip-flops, we're doing all kinds of things. According to that, he didn't do a isur d'oraisa of cooking meat and milk. He wanted to separate you from it. And he succeeded. Nobody would ever touch this joint. According to that, lichoira. He wanted to save you. What about Bal Tashchis? Same thing. Bal Tashchis means you can't take something and you're destroying it for no reason. I have a reason here. I want to save my wife and everybody else in the house from eating this something which is not kosher. He has a reason according to his crooked mind. Mimele didn't transgress and he said, Bal Tashchis. The husband has to do tshuva, serious tshuva. And the wife, Baruch Hashem, was appeased because she held it's 3 Isur d'oraisa and we just showed her that it's not. So, you see, for Shlom Bayis, we have to go all out, whatever we can pull, in order to restore Shlom Bayis, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows us to erase his name. Yeah. Bnei Yisoslo brings, why is it so terrible to get angry on Shabbos? Because the Zohar's language is, Man dekais b'Shabbos, keilu okid nur de Gehenom. One who gets angry on Shabbos, it's as if you lit the fires of Gehenom. Says the Bnei Yisoslo, it's always bad to get angry. Nedorim Chav Beis, terrible things over there about anger. But on Shabbos it's even worse, because on Shabbos the fire of Gehenom don't work. So one who gets upset, it's as if he lit the fire of Gehenom. That's what the Zohar says. And he's transgressing cooking on Shabbos. The guys upstairs, they have a rest. They're not being cooked now on Shabbos. But when he lights the fires of Gehenom, says the Bnei Yisoslo, he's cooking on Shabbos. Rabbi said an interesting riddle. What is this thing that you're not allowed to do? But if you say this halacha, I'm not allowed to do this, then you're allowed to do it. 2 answers. If you say, if you don't say anything, you're not allowed to do this. But if you'll tell me the halacha, so now you're allowed to do it. Can it be? What about divrei chol?
You can't say going to China on Shabbos, but you can say, you're not allowed to say that you're not allowed to go to Shabbos.
Oh, very good, very good. And I have 2 other possible answers. Excellent. Shulchan Aruch Yomi Shin Chav Ches, Seif Ches. Especially look at the Darkei Moshe. You're not allowed in the morning to put rok tafel, saliva, fresh saliva, as soon as you get up. Apparently it's very potent. And they used to put it on the eye for refuah. So the halacha is you're not allowed to use that in the morning before you speak because it's very, very potent. It's muchach de refuah avid. It's clear that you're doing for refuah. But once you say this halacha, by the way, I'm not allowed to put rok tafel on my eye, so that it's not rok tafel anymore. Maybe at that point you're allowed to put it. The other halacha not relevant to Shabbos, any day of the week, you're not allowed to make the shul a kapandria, a shortcut. Simin Kuf Nun Aleph. But if you come into the shul and you say some halachos, you're not allowed to make a shul into a kapandria, so now you can. Normally we're more lenient for a person who's sick on Shabbos than to a person who is healthy, right? We all agree? Great. 3 possible answers where we're more lenient with the healthy person and we allow him to do the things that we will not be allowed for the sick person to do. Can it be? Not everybody together. One by one. I can't hear when you're all yelling.
What was the question again?
What can a healthy person do on Shabbos that a sick person can't? What's that?
Taking some medications. Someone who's
Not taking the pain medication. Food.
A food or a medication.
Oh, so a healthy person, if he's eating it because he is hungry or thirsty, he's allowed to. The sick person that didn't reach the stage that he's allowed to take medication is not allowed to because it's proven that he's taken for medicine and he's not at that stage yet. That's the first answer. Excellent. Second answer. Biur halachat, the end of Reish Peites. Before Shachis, One who is healthy is allowed to drink water. One who is sick and is allowed to eat because of that, so he can't drink water because now he has to do Kiddush. Mimele, even water he won't be able to drink before Shachis. The third answer, Mishnah Bura and Siman Shin Lamed Vav. A sick person is not allowed to lean on a tree. A healthy person is allowed to lean on a tree. As long as the tree doesn't move, the healthy person is allowed to. The sick person, he's so weak, doesn't have any koyach. So he uses all his koyach and he leans on the tree, and that's considered kemishtamish b'mechubar, and therefore he's not allowed to lean on the tree. Another 3 possible answers. Amir aleakum is deoraisa or derabanan? Derabanan. Can it be that Amir aleakum is deoraisa? Can we upgrade Amir aleakum to deoraisa? 2 possible answers. Mishnah Bura, Shin Daled, Seif Aleph. If you say something to a ger toishav, since the Torah says ve'inafesh ben amasra ve'hager, it becomes an amira dioraisa. The Minchas Chinuch Mitzvah Kuf Yud Beis, if you say to a goy on Shemitah, I want you to work the land, it becomes an isur dioraisa, the amira le'akum. 2 great chidushim. What's more chamur, toilada or av? Av melacha or toilada? Av, pashut. Can it be that the toilada who is more chamur than the av? Can it be that it's more chamur? The toilada is more chamur than the av melacha? How can that be? Remez Shin Yud Ches, cooking. Can you cook using the benefit of the sun? Yeah. Chama. You allowed to?
Muta.
You allowed to? Can you use toldos chama?
No.
Why? Why not?
Because it's not cooking in the sun.
Because it's a gzeira. Because maybe when people see you doing that, they will say, oh, I guess the toilada is allowed to, so I know I'm not allowed to cook with fire, but I'm allowed to use toilada of fire. Gzeira. So it comes out that toilada of chama is more severe than the chama, because toilada of chama you're not allowed to cook, and with the chama you are allowed to. Now this is a very strange question. Can it be one does a melacha on Shabbos at 6 a.m. and we'll tell him, patu. He does the same melacha 6 hours later. So, ooh, chayav. Skila. Same melacha. Everybody's healthy. No vows, no inadarim, anything like that. Same melacha. 6 a.m. patu. Come back at 12, at 1 o'clock, at 2 p.m. chayav. And when you're patu in the morning, lechatchila.
First of all, for skila, you have to have 2 reasons giving us.
Of course. It's skillable. I'm not sure we're going to give it because we also don't have a Sanhedrin today. But it's a skillable
A
act.
guy who doesn't know it's Shabbos, and you said before that he should put on tefillin and mincha on Shabbos.
And if he puts tefillin, is chayav skila? What did he do? So how can he carry 6 a.m.? It's still Shabbos?
No, he's on Shabbos. He carried.
Patu and lechatchila. Is he lechatchila allowed to when he doesn't know?
Lulav on Shabbos.
When he doesn't know. So is lechatchila allowed to do so? If he would come and ask us, we would say, of course, do it lechatchila.
He puts fruit out to dry.
No.
He puts food out to dry? Fruit. No.
No sun at 6 in the morning.
So?
It's not malacha.
So if he plants something and then the rain only comes 6 hours later, when he did the actual melacha, it's not a problem. We're saying lechatchila is allowed to do this. It's a tremendous chiddush.
When you say 6 a.m., you mean it's dark outside? Is that what you're
No strong sun.
No, he's at 1 or 2, says something to do with mincha.
5 a.m. Could be even 8 a.m. Depends where. And not necessarily having to do with light or dark.
No, but does it have to do with his mom?
No. It has to do with something that has to do with his man.
No, people who are outside.
Oh, well, he ate?
Gesundheit? Why would he be chayav skila? Shabbos daf kuf vav. Rashi. But la'alacha. One who traps chagavim on Shabbos. If he does it at 6 a.m. when there's still dew, the chagavim misavrim, they're blind. And it's as if nitzoidin ve'oimdin. And therefore lechatchila you can do it. But when it's sharav, when it's hot out there and it's 2 p.m. and the sun is beating down, then it's mamish melachat yoraisa of tzad. The Rashash wonders on Rashi, why is it lechatchila mutar? From Rashi it's implied that it's mutar lechatchila. The Rashash doesn't understand why that is. It's 6 a.m. It's mutar lechatchila, nitzoidin ve'oimdin. But that's what Rashi says. What's interesting about this halacha is that the Rambam didn't bring it, the Shulchan Aruch didn't bring it, but the Biur Halacha brings it in Shin Tes Zayin, and that's the answer to our question. Can it be one can drive on Shabbos, but he can't do laundry at that time? Or the reverse. He can do laundry, but he can't drive. At the same time. Can it be?
I think most men can't do 2 things.
Shabbos! Even if you can do 5 things at once, it's Shabbos! Says the Taz in Reish Samech Gimel Gimel, in Ben Hashmashos, you can accept in yourself, in Tosefes Shabbos, you can accept in yourself certain melachos, and I'm not accepting on myself when I'm accepting Shabbos to do other melachos. So if you accept in yourself not to drive, you're not allowed to drive, but you're allowed to do the laundry. And the reverse. So that's the Taz in Reish Samech Gimel Gimel.
Laundry is bad as well.
What's that?
You're not supposed to do laundry on Friday. Especially after.
Yeah, but I need the garment for Shabbos. I don't have what to wear. Muktzeh, you're allowed to touch or you're not allowed to carry. What's exactly the definition of muktzeh? Don't move it. So I'm allowed to touch it?
Yes.
Great. What muktzeh are you not allowed to touch?
Fine.
That's not on Shabbos, that's also on Monday and Tuesday.
No line?
What's that?
No line? No line?
No. An head? An egg. Shulchan Aruch Chaim Shin Yud, and again in Shin Chav Beis, an egg. Any little touch, you're going to touch it a little, it's going to roll, it's going to move, and therefore you're not allowed to. Excellent. What mitzvah you perform on weekdays and you say a bracha over it? You do the same mitzvah on Shabbos, no bracha. 2 possible answers.
Tefillin.
Tefillin we don't put on Shabbos.
No, in the field. In the field.
Then you're wearing a derech malbush. It's not a mitzvah. You're doing a mitzvah, and yet you're not going to say a bracha. Doing a mitzvah. On Monday, you say a bracha. On Shabbos, you don't. How can that be? 2 possible answers. Mishnah Bura Shin Chaf Beis Lamed Gimel. Tvilas Kelim. On Monday, when you tevel klim, you have to say a bracha? Yeah. On Shabbos, are you allowed to do Tvilas Kelim? No. Why? Misakin. But I really need it. And I don't have anything else to wear. Oops, anything else to use, I'm sorry. So what do? Derech ha'arama. I put it in the well, and I'm just taking out some water. I'm doing the mitzvah of Tvilas Kelim. But when you do it that way, don't say a bracha. The other answer, 2nd day of Yontif, Rosh Hashanah, is on Friday. We didn't have a shofar. We're waiting for the shaliach, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and finally it arrives. But we already accepted Shabbos on ourselves. We did it early. We made it at that time. Take the shofar, says the Mishnah Bura, and only blow tashat, tarat, only 10 times. And blow it, but without saying a bracha. The Mishnah Bura continues. It's an interesting Mishnah Bura, but that would be sufficient for us, for the answer that we wanted. A person forgets to say Atachoy Lentano. Does he have to repeat Ma'ariv? No. We know that if he ate afterwards B'mezir and do Avdallah, he has to repeat. I'm not talking about that. He didn't eat. Is there any way that he has to repeat Shmoneh? When will it be that we'll say to him, you have to again say Shmoneh, not because there are other things that he forgot. Only because you forgot Atachoy Lentano. And he didn't eat anything.
He didn't have any wine to do Abdallah.
Explain.
So he has to In the case where it doesn't have any Avdallah, so he has to say.
But maybe he's going to get the wine tomorrow.
Tuesday.
Says the Shulchan Aruch, Reish Tzadi Dalet. If he doesn't have wine now, and he doesn't think that he will have wine tomorrow, then he has to do Avdallah now in Tefillah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, because he knows that it's coming tomorrow, then he shouldn't, because he can rely on the wine that's coming tomorrow. Excellent. Rabbi Isai, last riddle. Everybody knows the Maaseh, I don't have to repeat it. Giti Nun Hei Amud Beis, Kamza and Bar Kamza. We all know the Maaseh, right? Any interesting nafkamina lahaloche, especially for Hilchos Shabbos, stemming out of that Agadita part in the Gemara? It's a fascinating Maaseh. What does it have to do with us?
Yeah, they could have been marked the korban on Shabbos.
Any nafkamina to us today? No Beis HaMikdash, and yet Kamsa and Bar Kamsa apply every Shabbos. Can it be? There's an issue to read Shitrei Hedyotos on Shabbos. Right? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Shin Gimel, the Shemesh is allowed, he says, the Mishnah Berurah says, how is it that we see the Shemesh writing from the list of the invitees on Shabbos? Because they didn't decree this issue, this gezerah of don't read Shitrei Hedyotos on Shabbos on the Shemesh. Why? Because look what happened last time that the Shemesh didn't do a good job reading and inviting the right people. A tremendous churban came out of it. Therefore, because of this Kamsa and Bakamsa Maaseh, they never decreed on the Shemesh, and therefore he can read from the list of people. Moiradik. Two other possible answers, nafkamina lahaloche. Not necessarily Shabbos. One of them can be on Shabbos and weekdays. The other, not relevant to Shabbos necessarily. Actually, both of them can apply on Shabbos as well. The other thing is in Shulchan Aruch, which you already learned in Kuf Nun Gimel, a person who has a house and he donated it or he's lending it to become a shul la Rabbim. But he's this one guy who comes there, you can't stand him. So he says to everybody, you can come in, you can't. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you're not allowed to do this. And if you want, just close the shul. But you can't do this. Why? Because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. Because what happens when you embarrass someone publicly? We know the story. Churban Beis HaMikdash. The third thing is, in Mishnah Berurah, not Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan Aruch. Orach Chaim, Siman Kuf Ayin. Shulchan Aruch quotes a Gemara in Pesachim Peivav Amud Beis. Hanichnas lebeis chaveiro. Kol ma sheyomar lecha ba'al habayis, aseh. The Shulchan Aruch says, yeah, aseh. That's it. The Biur Halacha brings that there are some versions of the Shulchan Aruch. There is chutz mitzeh, just like it says in the Gemara. By the way, what is chutz mitzeh? What does that mean? Leave. The Ben Yehoyada doesn't understand like you, and the Ben Yehoyada says, tzachus, tzeh is Rashi Tevos, tzorchei ishtoi. When the Bible says to you, start taking care of my wife's matters, that's when it stops, and then you don't have to listen to him. Says this Sfas Emes back there in Pesachim Peivav. Where did they get this statement from? Chazal say, Kol ma sheyomar lecha ba'al habayis aseh, chutz mitzeh. Don't leave, no matter what. That comes from the Maaseh with Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, because look what happened. If Kamsa would stay, we wouldn't have a Churban Beis HaMikdash. That's what the Sfas Emes says. So this applies actually in Shabbos as well, because all three answers apply in Shabbos as well. So those are our riddles. I just want to end by saying something about the tremendous thing that you involved, the effort, and that in Mitzvah Hashem you'll be able to continue. There's a Gemara in Shabbos Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. Omar Rava, B'sha'ah she'machnisin Adam ladin, shoya li moisoi. Rava says to us what happens after 120. They're going to ask a series of 6 questions. The first one, Asakta, Nasata v'natata be'emuna. Are your business dealings honest? The second one, Kavata itim latoya. Did you set specific times to learn? Why is it so important? Listen to this, it's worth at least $1 million. Cash. Who says the following? The Pele Yoetz says it in his Pele Yoetz. But the Pele Yoetz is a Sefer Musa. Pele Yoetz wrote another Sefer called Ya'alzu Chasidim. But that's also Sefer Musa and Sefer Chasidim. But he also wrote a very important halachic work. What is that? Chesed la'alofim. Chesed la'alofim simen kuf nun hey. Chesed la'alofim, Shulchan Aruch Chaim. The same thing says the Ben Yehoyada. Adata de nafshay. Both great Nevi'im misnabim b'signon echad. He writes it in Brachos Lamed Hey Amud Beis. And the Im Reyemes writes similarly, I think in Shnas Tafresh Mem Hey. Listen to the following. Why is it so important? Kavata itim l'Torah. And don't change that and don't cancel it for no matter what. We have a rule. Normally we go basar roiv. Right? Call the parish miruba parish. But not always. Because in Ksubis Tezvav Amud Aleph we learn, Kol kavua kemerza al merza dami. If something is set in its place, it's not viewed as it's 1 out of 10. As 1 out of 10, it's viewed as 50-50. 5 and 5. Just because it's set in its place. These Gedolim say, if all you have is that 25 minutes, 24 minutes and a half for Shulchan Aruch Yomi, and I'm sure you have more, but whatever it is that you have, and it's kvius though, and it doesn't change, so then your day is viewed as half and half. Kol kavua kemerza al merza dami. But it doesn't stop there, because in Rosh Hashanah Yud Zayin Amud Aleph the Gemara darshan is a pasuk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Rav Chesed. What is Rav Chesed? Mateh klapei Chesed. When it's exactly equal on the scales, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tilts the scales in your favor. So if by having a set time and you don't change it, no matter what, you moved up to Kol Kavua Kemerza Al Merza, it's in the entire, it's a half of the day. So Mimele, now HaKadosh Baruch Hu tilts the scales. And now, the rov of your day, you're sitting and learning. It doesn't stop there, because in Nazir Membeis Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Ruboi Kechuloi. So in the 10 minutes that you're learning a day, in this case 25 at least, then you add the Daf Yomi, then you add this, then you add that, whatever it is. But it's Kavua. You move to Kavua Kemerza Al Merza. Once it's Merza Al Merza, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does the rest for you, and it's Rov. It moves up. It's the Rov. Once you have a Rov, Ruboi Kechulo, and the entire day is viewed in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as if you're sitting and learning 24/7, 354 days a year. Moiradik. You should learn, steig, and more importantly, retain, but even more importantly, have fun in the process. If you, I want to add one more thing. For some reason, people think that Shabbos has a lot of restrictions. Weekdays, it's much easier. Contrary to popular belief, I found 28 things that one is allowed to do on Shabbos and is not allowed to do on weekdays. I didn't want to ask this as a riddle. I'll bring it one of the things because we would stay here for quite a while. If you want, I printed them here. 28 different things you are allowed to do on Shabbos, but you can't do on weekdays. So maybe this will change our view of how we think of Shabbos. Kol tov, Rabbi.
28, yeah.